Two experts in ICF. Decades of experience. One podcast. Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. I've been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt, yeah.
Okay, welcome back to the Build with ICF podcast, episode 7.
Yes, episode 7. I'm so excited for this one.
Yeah, so we're doing this. This is probably the most exciting one because the whole idea of this podcast has been to bring information to people about ICF. So we get to have our first ICF company on as our guest now.
Yeah,
so
our first block company.
Our first actual block company. So we get to have Matt and Jason on from SuperForm. How we doing, guys?
Doing great, yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. It's a good morning to be here.
Good. So let's go ahead and start just by introducing each of you. If you guys want to take turns telling us a little about yourself and how you got into the ICF business.
Well, I'm Jason Unruh. I'm president of SuperForm. My dad was one of the founders of SuperForm. So in 96, he started working with an ICF and built his own house out of ICF, which I live in now. It was a green block house at the time. He was distributing that, and ICF was new, pretty new back then. You weren't seeing a lot of that. So him and my uncle decided that they were going to look into what they could do better, what kind of block would work to kind of just hit this running, I guess. So 98, they started doing that, and I was like just a little tyke. I was probably 8 years old at the time, running around doing that and watching. I can't really remember that house go up, but I do remember this new concept, and I do remember them making trips to Europe and stuff through the time that SuperForm started kind of becoming went from an idea to an actual product. So those were exciting years for sure. And then we didn't really have much to do with business. We kind of were the kids, and Dad did work. Dad was a very hard worker, worked hard all his life. And so that's a little bit of the early days of me being introduced to ICF and what it was. And then I think I was 16 years old, and up here in Canada, journeyman carpenter is something you go for, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life and all that stuff. And I had the opportunity to hit school. So you go and take 2 months of college for 4 years up here in Canada. So I went through that, did that. And through that time I was running working with flat work company. We were doing concrete, and I got my journeyman ticket. Then I decided to start contracting on my own. I think I was about 20 years old, and I started doing ICF projects. A lot of leads come through SuperForm, and I had the opportunity to start doing a lot of installs, got my hands on the products, working with the customer, that stuff. So that I did about that for about 5 years, and in the meantime, things had changed quite a bit on the SuperForm front. Dad had bought his partner out, and he was pretty stressed out. 2014 was an extremely busy year, and he was definitely overworked and undermanned for sure. So we were talking about how I'd fit into SuperForm and start like what was my position. SuperForm was like a 6-person company at the time, kind of maybe 10, I don't know, pretty light. And yeah, anyways, an unfortunate turn of events happened. September of 2014, he suddenly passed away. He got really sick, and within 3 days he was gone. And yeah, it was an extremely rough time for us all personally, and then with the business and all. We had some great employees that kind of kept us through, and I was in a position to kind of take the wheel at that time. So I took the wheel and rode it through. It's been almost 10 years now. We're going into our 10th year in 2024 now, where I've been running SuperForm, and yeah, that's a little bit about me and where I came from. So that was a long introduction.
No, that's great, because I mean, realistically, that is that's what people want to know. I mean, you want to learn about this, and I think that the kudos I'll give to SuperForm, you know, and working with you guys and getting to know you guys better is just that, the family story behind it, and you guys have that family feel, and just hearing that whole story basically gives me a lot of clarity in why you guys, even how the company's run. That makes a lot of sense. So it's pretty amazing. I mean, it goes way back. I sit here and listen to you, and I think about my son, and he's installing block now, and you know, he's turning 20, and same. I've been doing ICF longer than he's been alive, so the kid grew up in it too. So it's kind of fun to hear the next generation taking over. So that's really cool. So Matt, how did you end up in this company?
So yeah, I was working for my dad when I was out of school doing construction, and I was of the Pincher Creek, Alberta, where our main facility is here. I was born and raised here, so I didn't know what ICF was. I knew what SuperForm was. Yeah. Everyone in this town calls ICF SuperForm. So yeah. That's just all. I thought that was the only one that existed. And my dad stacked some block, did some carpentry. So I worked with him and got my hands on the product, and he did other stuff too, but that's kind of what I got introduced to it. And yeah, the town and everyone just spoke really highly of SuperForm. The people, my dad and Jeff, Dejan, Merle, Unruh were all about the same age or similar ages. And yeah, Dad really spoke highly of it. So about 5 years ago, I was interested in a new position, looking for something different. And I noticed that SuperForm was looking for a salesperson. So jumped and talked to Jason, and boom, 5 years later, here we are. Been on the road a lot, been to a lot of trade shows, had a lot of good times, and really, really passionate about the ICF industry and about what SuperForm offers. It's just an incredible experience so far.
Yeah, and I think both of you guys having the background of construction background, not just a sales background, I think is what really helps a lot. And I know that's in my background and being in sales of ICF, I would say probably what gave me the biggest advantage was the fact that I'd grown up in the construction industry and doing that. So I had that hands-on experience. It wasn't just a product or a widget that I learned about. It was, to sell it, I actually knew it and knew how it worked before and then sold it. So I think that's a big benefit to you, to be able to have that kind of tie to it, where you worked with it first and then came into the sales position second, so it definitely is a good move. But
all right, so
yeah, I'll say that I've made a lot of bad decisions in my career, but hiring Matt was in the top 3 decisions I've made in my career. He's just knocked it out of the park.
See, Matt, we're going to have that now in infamy that will be on the podcast. Yeah. So anytime he's mad at you, you can just go pull this podcast back up and play it. Remind him he said that, because it could come back around. I mean, like review time, I would make sure to bring this podcast in and play it for him.
I'll take it. Thanks, Trevor.
Oh, Well, when we decided when we were starting to do this that we were going to ask all of our guests the same 3 questions. So we're going to get started with our first question, and the question is, why SuperForm?
Yeah, why SuperForm? Thanks for the question. So one of the main distinctive differences of SuperForm is the size of the block. I think that a lot of people they've seen us, they watch us, they know us, but we're blown over because we're too small. We're not your typical 16-inch ICF block. So our blocks are 1 foot by 4 foot, and it just makes sense. I guess it's a key difference for us for being ICF, and we think in feet. Mm-hmm. I guess some of my thoughts is you as carpenters, we're thinking in feet. We don't think that this window's 3 16-inch increments above the floor, or you just don't talk in 16-inch increments. So it's one of the key differences I thought I'd speak to. And I think that sitting behind me here is a picture of the Canis Tower, and we might talk to that more, but that was a tower that went up 18 stories. They stacked it. They had to choose us. They were working with a 16-inch block earlier, and it was a pretty big, it's a big project. It's over $30 million project. You're going into this, thinking about switching to a different ICF, and we got videos on our website of their experience and stuff, and maybe we can talk to that more sometime. But they finished that ICF project 1 month ahead of schedule. Another thing with size is, if you want to get to town fast, you're going to take your Ferrari. You're not going to hop in your Volvo 760 and rumble your way down the road. You're gonna get it in your Ferrari, and you're gonna go. And we get a lot of pushback on size, and I know, Trevor, you've mentioned that you like what's the word? Comparisons. That word's slipping my mind.
The analogy,
right
yeah, the analogies.
A couple analogies there, just regarding the size of our block, who we are, and
Well, definitely, you talk about Ferraris, you also are known as the Red Webs. Yes. So I think before I got to know you guys, before I even put a hand on the blocks myself, ever, in the industry for, 20 plus years, I've always known you guys as the Red Webs. So I think that's, Ferrari Red Webs that you have that stick out to everybody. So I think if people, our listeners, are hearing this and you've seen the ones with the Red Webs, that's you guys, which is very super smart marketing idea. I think that there's, all the blocks look the same. I mean, white styrofoam, white expanded polystyrene looks like white expanded polystyrene. Like, it's hard to see from a distance, but boy, you see those red webs, it really sticks out. So that's really unique. And I totally agree with you with the 12-inch increment. I talked about, I think on one of the previous episodes, but like, I know the beginning, 16-inch was, every basement was basically a 8-foot basement, which is 16-inch increment worked out to an 8-foot basement. That's what it was. Nowadays, everybody's doing 9-foot basements or even 10-foot basements. So that 1-foot increment really does come in handy. And as somebody who's worked with the block and been on the job site with it, even just being able to look at the seams and count, by the foot, like you said, like, okay, the floor's coming in at a 4-foot. We're going to bring a 4-foot crawl in. I count up 4 lines and there's 4 feet, right? Or 3 feet or whatever we're doing. So it is definitely very handy. How about you, Matt? You got anything on being the sales guy? What makes you guys different? What's the, anything that Jason missed there?
Yeah, I think, we're kind of speaking to the contractor there, the size of the block, because once an ICF structure is up, it all is somewhat the same. But I would say that red web, that flange for screwing into to attaching your drywall, attaching the exterior, whatever you're putting on the finishes for the outside, that thick tie flange is just a real nice beast to put a screw into. You know, if you come by our trade show booth at World of Conquer or IBS, make sure you pick up one of our red webs and just take a feel at that. 157 pound pull out strength on a screw. So I think the red web is really the success behind the block. And when Merle and Jeff designed that, they weren't sleeping when they came up with that.
No, it's definitely nice. It's funny. We mentioned in our last episode when we were talking about how to pick a block. You know, we did a generic episode on how to choose your block, and one of the things we said is get your hands on it. Like get to the trade shows, get to the distributor, wherever you can get your hands on the block and feel it. Physically touch the block, physically feel the webs and see the webs, because that's what makes it different. So I totally agree with you, and that definitely is something that is a great sales pitch for SuperForm, because you guys have a good product and a great web, and when you see that, you can physically feel it and see the difference. So that's a good point.
Yep. Okay. So we're going.
I'll let you run the questions.
Okay. So I get to go through
people
the
like
questions.
listening to your voice more than mine. So
okay, whatever.
One other thing we did want to touch on that question, why SuperForm? We did want to give a shout out to our customer service team that has really developed over the last few years, bringing, you know, it seems like a lot of it seems like there's lots of good products out there, but what it comes down to is if you can communicate with the team, get on-time logistics. If there's that family feel that we try and present, we try and put that out everywhere. And that's one of the things as a customer service team that we have. Big shout out to them.
I agree. And again, things we touched on in that episode was, you know, your support, find out, you know, how they support things, where your local distributor is, where, you know, what the customer service is like, is really great. And that's one of the things too that I'll, you know, like I said, just from our own knowledge, I can throw a few of these things out here because we've worked with you guys, is, you know, when that SuperForm truck pulls up, I mean, you talk about your customer service, you talk about going back to, you know, Jason and his family and the roots there. And, you know, all these are different aspects of the company, down to literally the truck pulls up. It's a 53-foot SuperForm semi, you know, that's got this cool, you know, billboard when it drives into town. We had people from all over. We were in a small town when we did our first job with you guys, and everyone was talking about that. What's that SuperForm thing? What's that truck? You know, I saw that SuperForm truck pull into town. Your driver was awesome. I don't know if you remember his name.
I don't remember his name. I just remembered, like, he jumps out of the truck and he's got a collared SuperForm shirt on, and he goes and he jumps in the back and he's helping us unload, which doesn't typically happen. So you know, helping the guys unload it, and just great customer service, all the way from when the time the truck left the factory there in Pincher Creek to arriving in, you know, the little old town of Pine, Idaho, with no cell service.
Right. So even down to your guys' trucking and your drivers and stuff are really good. So you guys have done a really good job. Obviously that just speaks to the culture of the company and what you guys are trying to do. So kudos to you guys. And
that kind of goes into our next question, because that was actually a memorable moment for us in working with you guys for the first time. But I'm curious, you know, being in business as long as you have, you've got to have some other really memorable moments in the ICF industry. So you guys want to share one of those with us?
Yeah, I would have quite a few.
Jason's like, what? Only one?
It's only a 30-minute show, so you got to pick one.
Yeah. Either be ready to shut them down.
I'll talk about two. The first one that came to my mind is Dad had sold a bunch of block into Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, and it was in November, and it was like the contractors, the GC up there needed some help. I don't know the whole story, if they'd had somebody fall through or what, but they reached out to Dad. They said, like, you got anyone that can come and help you? We got all this block up here. We need to get it in the ground. It's minus 40 up there, I think, at the time. So we went up there. I worked, my brother Keelan, who's also in the business with me, and my buddy Lance and Kyle, we went up there for 3 weeks. just brutally cold. We were setting ICF on bedrock, so everything was on bedrock, and they were using dynamite to excavate, and it was just quite the ordeal. We were it was dark, so you spent at least the first 2 or 3 hours in the morning working under lights, and then so you maybe got light from like 10 to 3. So we maybe started 8 under lights, and then we were finishing the job with light generators from like 3 to 5, and it's just, it was miserable, but you remember the miserable stuff, and I look back at that with fond memories. And then another memorable kind of moment in SuperForm's career was actually, or in my career, was actually just landing this 18-story high-rise I mentioned. We've been the basement guys forever. We've got a great loyal customer base, and we put basements and houses up like crazy. And just to move past that on this project, and then it just was a big stepping stone in my career, and feather in her cap. We hit it out of the park with timely deliveries, and just everything went very well.
Yeah, that is, I mean, as a sales guy in the ICF world, I will say that there's nothing more gratifying than when people ask you that question, like, yeah, how tall can I go with this? And then they're literally thinking, like, can I go 16 feet? Can I go 20 feet? And I'll go, well, you could do a 16-story hotel or apartment building. We've done, I think right now, the last I heard in the industry-wide, I think 26 stories is the tallest that's been done at this point. But it always is like that shock factor on their face when they realize that you can do buildings that are 16 stories tall, right? Like they don't even think about that. So that's a pretty big, and I know our listeners, this is going to be an audio podcast. You can't see, but we are on Riverside video, so I can see you guys, and the picture behind you is impressive. I'll try to put a link in the show notes. I'll put a link to your guys' site, and they can kind of go check it out and everything. But very impressive. That's super cool.
Yeah. All right. And our last question, not that we won't have more after this, but the last question is, what are you excited about moving forward in the ICF industry?
That's a great question, Heather. I think as the ICF industry as a whole, I think, no matter what block manufacturer you're choosing, if you're going ICF, you're choosing the right direction. So if any of you that are listening to this podcast, don't get too stuck in the weeds on what block. If you are going ICF, you're choosing the right product. The sustainability of it, the resistance against natural disasters, fire, tornado, hurricanes, the complete package of ICF, that's what I'm excited about in our industry. I think, I work with the ICF on the association with all the manufacturers, and it's just really cool to be a part of that teamwork, all pushing in an effort in the same direction toward building a better future and making sustainable buildings that are going to last way longer than all 4 of us sitting in this podcast.
True. I think it's amazing to watch, being that ICF is a Canadian-based product, basically, where they really took off from. I've always heard people say hockey stick growth pattern, right? Like it looks like a hockey stick. And that's literally been the story of my life. Like it's this long, it's been this long, slow grow. And then all of a sudden, like the end of a hockey stick, it just in the last few years, it's just shot up. And it's been crazy. I told people, I remember the years where if you would have told me that, we were going to move, that our company could sell 15 truckloads of block in a year, I would have thought that was insane. And now we've got to points where we have months that we sell 15 truckloads in a month, because it's moving in such a direction where everyone's just getting into it. So it is definitely exciting for the future. I think there's new stuff being, I think there's new tweaks to the industry all the time. I think that whether it be, we talk about, breakdown blocks and one-sided blocks, and there's always this kind of thing. I will tell people that I've always been the kind of person, and that's what I really like too about SuperForm, is you keep it keep it simple, really focus on the what you guys do and how you're doing it, and not getting too into the tricky tricks of different blocks and stuff. Sometimes I think there's some.
Stay tuned, Trevor. Stay tuned.
But it's so yeah, you're gonna prove me wrong now. But no, I mean everybody you stick with what sells. But I mean there is always that excitement of like the next thing. Like you're seeing more people go to the hinged blocks for breakdown, or for a one-sided block for different elevator shafts and different stuff. So talking about that, is there anything you guys are interested in disclosing? Any new products that are on the horizon that maybe aren't out yet, but you're working on?
Yeah, we're always working on stuff. So we are coming out with a one-sided form soon, and different ideas we're always on scratching ideas down on paper and talking to people about what they want, what they'd like to see, and just always listening.
No, and I think you guys do a great job of that, and that's something I was going to say to the listeners is, to feel free to reach out to you guys. I'm going to volunteer you guys, but reach out to you guys about ideas and things that they're looking at, because you guys have always been really receptive to, comments about, things that we like about the block or what we would be interested in seeing and stuff. So I think it's, you guys do a really good job of interacting with your customers and listening to them. So I'm going to say to anybody listening, if you've got questions or you've got suggestions for Jason or Matt, we're going to put the link in the show notes to where they can get hold of you guys and ask you and start that conversation. So,
and I would recommend our listeners go and check out their website, because like the training on the website, the information, all the technical information, it's all there, and it's great. And then you guys said you're going to be at World of Concrete. Do you know where your booth is going to be located?
Yeah, the World of Concrete booth is the North Hall, so N2977. And then the International Builders Show is Central Hall C7850. Definitely come by and check us out. We'd love to see you there and get your hand on our product.
Yeah, that's where I first met you guys at World of Concrete. I'm trying to think how long ago. It's been a few years. I met Matt there, and was really impressed with the product, and then decided that we're gonna try it out on our jobs over in these remote areas, and really glad that we did. And so it's been great working with you guys, and I'm glad that you guys were our first block company to be on our podcast today.
I was going to ask one last thing here. I wanted to see if you can. I want to give Harvey a shout out. Like that guy's like, it's so funny when people go to the website and then that's like the face. Like that guy looks like an ICF. And maybe it's because he kind of looks like me in a way. So I feel like I get like, I'm excited to meet him at some point, because I feel like I like that guy. Big mustache. I love the way he talks, like he does your stuff for you. I mean, big shout out to Harvey, because that guy looks like an ICF builder, if there is one. That's exactly what the picture should look like.
When you were saying that you should check out our website, you should check out our YouTube channel and see all of our training videos there too. And Harvey's kind of the main face of that. So
yeah.
The star.
Yep.
You'll be at World of Concrete, so come meet him, Trev.
Oh, good. I gotta get a
exciting.
selfie with him.
Perfect.
Get a selfie with him. Have him sign something for me. That'd be great. All right, guys. Well, we made our 30 minutes. I think that's pretty good. Is there anything in closing that you guys want to, anything else that you were wanting to say or bring up, or do you think you nailed all of it?
I think we got her.
I'd just like to give a shout out to both you, Trevor and Heather, for doing what you're doing in the ICF industry, this podcast. And I've been with you at several association events, and what you guys do for the industry is awesome. So good with Build with ICF podcast and also your dealership, your business there you've got going on.
Well, thank you. That means a lot, because that is, that is our focus right now. We've spent a lot of years in this business, and it's fun to kind of, in my way, I feel like this is our give back moment, just doing the podcast. We've we've had the other podcasts going for years, and we've always said we wanted to do something for the industry, and I think this is a good way to do it, just to educate. You mentioned YouTube. It's kind of our version of an audio YouTube thing where we're going to set up episodes in the future where every episode will be about something that you can click on and follow and learn about. And lucky we got, great talent like yourselves to come on and do these podcasts with us, and we just want to be kind of the catalyst or the vehicle for people to get to tell their story about ICF and for people to learn about it. So appreciate that. That means a lot because it is something that we enjoy doing, we love doing, and we love the industry. And then we're still going. I'll die doing this. So me and Harvey and I will be 90-year-old ICF stackers out on the job site. Going to need some sort of automated elevator system to get me on the scaffold, but we'll keep doing it. So,
well, what is your guys' main social, like Instagram, Facebook? What is for our listeners to find you guys?
Yeah, Facebook and Instagram.
And just at SuperForm.
Yeah, at SuperForm.
And
all the sales guys are on LinkedIn. Check Jordan or Jason or myself out.
Yeah, one thing I would like to say as well is, Trevor, I've always looked up to you as an ICF guy, and as a competitor for years and years, you're kind of always, you know the name, and I'd look at I think he had something with Havoc Partners, or I don't know what it was. And,
yeah.
and I'd listen to your odd Wreak Havoc podcast, or, I just kept an eye out for you. And then when this summer, when Matt said he was heading down to Idaho and you guys hung out and on the job site and stuff, and I was I was just blown away by that this was actually going down. We were doing some business together, and I think that just goes to show that our team works hard, and we work hard at serving people. They do a great job at serving people, and if we can get people's attention, I think within the ICF industry, we kind of all have a little bit of the blinders on, where once you got your product, you kind of that's just what you know and what you do. And so for you to be open enough to trust us and notice us, and just goes a lot. It goes, it's been great. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
That's kudos to our team and everything else.
No, I appreciate that. That means a lot. And like I said, you guys definitely earned every bit of it. I mean, it's I've been very impressed with you guys, and I've told you, anybody that knows me knows I shoot everybody straight, and I've told you guys how I feel about the block and how I feel about how you guys do things, and I think you guys do a great job, and I have 100% faith in referring to any of our listeners to work with you guys. I've had nothing but great experience with you guys, and even working with Matt's been okay. But no, I gave him crap, but he came down and worked side by side with us in hot temperatures, and it just meant a lot for. I mean, it really just says a lot to the culture that you guys this goes back to a shout out to your dad and how he started this. This is a culture that started with him. He created a company. You took over when needed. You took over, and you've taken it to the next level. And you guys should be proud of what you're doing. And like I said, for what it's worth, I'm proud of what you guys are doing. I have all the faith in the world that you guys are doing nothing but positive things for the ICF industry. And like I said, we're all in this together. I love what Matt said about, we pick a block. It doesn't have to be our block, but pick a block. I've always said that with whatever brand I was repping or selling. I don't care if it's my block. I just care that it's a block. Now, once we get into that part, then we'll start, whittling it down to which block after that. But you guys are just doing nothing but great things for the industry as well. So I think that's good. I think we've all told how great each other are and everything. Now we can wrap it up.
Yeah, we follow us on all of our socials. Everything we have is at Build with ICF. If you want to email us some questions or have any questions, regarding the podcast or anything else regarding ICF, info at buildwithicf.com.
Yep. And we will be also wandering around at World of Concrete. We will be in multiple locations. We'll start, follow our Instagram for that. I'm going to be posting up where we'll be on what days, but we've got a couple in-person interviews we're going to be doing for the podcast while we're there. We'll also be at IBS, so if I'll let everybody know where we're at there. But anybody, please reach out to us if you want to get together with us, if you'd like to watch us do a recording, or if you guys have any suggestions. And as always, keep hammering us with the questions about what you want to learn about. We've had some great things. I've buddy of mine, Ryan, I just talked to him and I told him to come on into the podcast because he's listening to it all the time, and he's got all sorts of questions about different things he wants us to talk about, whether it be helix or fiberglass rebar and different things. So please let me know if you have any questions or anything that you want us to hit on, and we'll start lining up those podcasts. I'm not sure what episode 8 is going to be right now. We're just recording a bunch of them, and we'll launch them in whatever order we can get them out. But check us out every Friday. We'll be dropping podcasts and good to go. So I'm getting cut off now. Perfect. See, they're telling me we're 35 minutes in. We did pretty good. All right, boys. I appreciate you. We're gonna hit cue the music here, and we'll check you guys on the next podcast.
Thanks again for hosting us.